Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join Certified Facilitator and Coach Betsy McLoughlin as she delves into different areas of your life to get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. Betsy has changed her life by utilizing the tools and techniques she is sharing with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Imperfect Brilliance. I am your host for this show. My name's Betsy McLoughlin, and I have a guest with me who's been on before, Christine. And please remind me, I'm sorry, I went to total space about how to pronounce your last name.
It's all good. It's Ciona. Yeah. A lot of people think it's my first name. In the past, they've thought Ciona's my first name, but nope, that's my last. Yeah.
Well, I love the name, and I just don't desire to mispronounce it. And so, Christine, we are going to have a very different conversation today. We titled the name of the show, The Dying Experience. And, dying is, and we have there's no prescripts or anything, and literally, right before the show, like, what do we want to do? It's like, well, we're just going to go basically wherever. And the show came from actually the personal experience that I'm going through for actually several years now, and with my mother and her declining health. And I've spoken to so many people who have friends or family members. Everybody goes through this at some point. And so we thought we would get on today and just really chat about all the different things. And if you're listening and would like to call in, you're certainly welcome to and ask your questions. The phone number, if you're in the United States or Canada, it's +1 and then 202-570-7057. And like I said, you're welcome to call in and ask your questions. So for me, the dying experience has been, my mother first had kid, and she was always very strong, very vital, very independent. She has astonished people for a long time about how old she was, and she's not anywhere with any kind of typical person in that age bracket. And now she just turned 91. She was, until just a few years ago, she was on the tennis court almost every day. She actually still owns a convertible car. She's very independent. And, so it's just been very interesting watching as she's had to give up a lot of her independence and actually accept, allow, receive contribution from myself and my husband. So that's kind of where all of this started. And then just seeing the progression of that illness and different illnesses that she's had since. And we're at the point now where she's actually on hospice care, and which is an unbelievably wonderful program. If you guys have never experienced it, oh my gosh. So really that's, again, no script, no ideas of where we're going to go. And then, I was speaking to Christine and found out some interesting things about what she's had in her past that I thought would be really kind of cool to talk about. So, Christine, what's popping for you to kind of open this conversation with?
Yeah, it's interesting when we were getting ready for this call, and I said, like, let's just be real. Let's be real and be here and be present with each other. And, when we talk about the dying experience, it's not like we all of a sudden see rainbows and unicorns and we're excited and we raise our hands and go, oh, me, pick me. I would love to have a conversation about the dying experience. And at the same time, I don't know of anyone that hasn't or isn't going through an experience of death and dying. And it doesn't have to mean that, the person is in level 4 care and about to transition to another dimension or place, but we're all in a relationship of giving birth to something and giving death to something and starting and stopping. And when this goes on with someone that we love, it brings up a lot of interesting things for us, as is with the people that we're in relationships with. So with that, like, if anyone who's listening to this, I'm sure there's going to be nuggets here, and definitely call in if there's some questions or anything you want to share, because we all have our own experience with this in all different places of where we're living, and different ages that we're in as well. And so for me, death and dying bring up some interesting points of view and interesting thoughts. I grew up, I went to a lot of funerals as a kid. I know some adults maybe have never even been to a funeral before. But as a kid, I went to a lot of funerals in our extended family and had experienced that myself. I had a terminal illness when I was a kid, and so I know what it's like to be with an illness that can create and cause death and all the stuff that brings up for people around you about what that means. And then I've also been a child of parents who are going through, like, they're in their senior stages of living, and my dad has dementia, and my mom is a caregiver, and my mom is, like, they're both alive, they're both well, and I see what it's like to be the child of a caregiver of a family member that you love, and what it's like to let go of someone, and to celebrate someone who's still alive but not the same person that you knew them as. And all of that brings up a lot of interesting things. Like, who do I want to be today in this relationship as a caregiver, like the daughter of parents that you love that are aging, and what would it be like to let them age how they're aging, and what does that mean for me, and how can I be the best contribution in this moment to them, without making what they're choosing right or wrong?
Yes, gosh, there's so much in what you said. And also, just if you guys, I did have Christine on my show. I don't remember exactly when, but we did a show about, your choosing joy and what you went through as a kid with the cancer and everything. So I had even forgotten that would be a piece of this whole conversation, and then thinking, oh gosh, I had cancer. I don't even know how long ago at this point, 15, maybe 20 years, somewhere in there. And I remember, when the doctor came in and very, I was going in for results, and he was like, oh, no big deal. It's like, okay, so we're just kind of going in to have a follow-up visit. And he just very casually walks in and said, like, not even looking at me, looks at the piece of paper and says, oh yeah, you have breast cancer. And like you could have said, oh, they're serving hamburgers today at the cafeteria. I mean, it was just like, and my whole world in that moment just imploded into, oh my God, and I froze, and I was just in this terrible panic and thinking, well, cancer is a death sentence and all the things that you hear or you just projected at, or you've just all of those things. And I've forgotten even about that piece. So, how many of us have even had experiences like that where we've been very ill and maybe thought that, or at some point thought, well, that we're going to die from it. And then we didn't, so even the name of this, the dying experience, everybody is going to have a unique experience or many experiences, with death. And so many people don't want to talk about it. They avoid it. It's not, it's something that you're just not supposed to talk about. And all of us at some point are going to die, So it's like, what could we have as a conversation and a contribution for all of this, and make it something that isn't taboo, and make it something that can be a different, just a different experience for all of us.
Yeah. And, Betsy, the piece that the whole impetus of this, this radio show and the invitation to the dying experience is really, I think, if I could back up a little, and I have the pleasure of creating with you in business on some different business adventures we have together. And I get to see you show up to these meetings and creation calls while, there's a hospice provider in the living room, or you're on the phone with the medical team, or what, life shows up. And everyone knows that life shows up. It can be someone's having a baby, or so-and-so is in the hospital for A, B, C, D, or E. And when we put our barriers up and we don't allow people to see how life shows up for us, we shut ourselves down for the creation of our life. And there's a beautiful thing that happens in these creation meetings is you are being you. There are your barriers down, you're present, you're just like, I don't know how, I don't know what I can deliver today, or I need some contribution today, or this just happened. There's no shaming in the dying experience. There's no guilt in the dying experience. It's happening. And what is a beautiful gift to not shame or hide ourselves from our experiences in what's going on from us. And I know lots of people do that because death is so taboo. We're like, I don't want to make people uncomfortable. Like, I've got cancer, and then everyone talks about like how uncomfortable that is, or, oh my God, I don't want to talk about my dad again, or this just happened again. And yet, life is inviting us into continually grow and change and transform. And that shows up when we're being vulnerable with each other. And
that's so true.
And it's created so much for not only like business, but it's created so much in our lives to not have to hide life from going on, because it doesn't matter what Sheila or Bob or Tony thinks. This is where I'm at, and this is real. And so that for me is just the presence that what does that look like to be present with the death and dying experience, and where are we not allowing ourselves to see the gifts that are showing up in this because of something that we're afraid of if it's, I don't want to make her mad, or I don't want to disappoint, or whatever that is. What if we could just be real and present in the dying experience and learn how to meander through it with grace?
Beautiful questions. Absolutely. And thank you for what you said. It's certainly been an experience, and you have, I know I've gone a lot of times to, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to burden anybody else, right? And what if actually just talking about it for a little bit is a contribution to you, and you don't know what it might be a contribution to the other person. I do know when I keep it all bottled up inside of me for too long, I just go to this, I'm going to explode. I don't know what to do. I get mad over something that is absolutely has nothing to do with what's going on. I might cry. I can't sleep. And like all the things as a caregiver that you've got to remember to take care of you when, your primary focus is on the person that you're caring for and anybody else involved, that you've also got to remember to take care of you in that and put things in place that nurture yourself as well as navigating all those other things. So it's certainly something that I keep reminding myself of over and over again. And I had a meeting and I didn't want to go because it's like I was in a really funky place, and I thought, I don't want to bring them down with the funk that I was exhausted and cranky, and I don't know that I can contribute anything right now. I don't know that anything can be created, and I almost canceled the meeting, and I ended up not. I was like, you can just tell them it's just not a good time, and what was born out of that meeting is actually this conversation where it was Michelle, who is not on here today, and Christine, and it was the three of us like having this conversation about, what can you receive here, and what is actually a gift that you've never acknowledged that you might have, or more than one gift with all of this. And it just kind of opened my world up, and they were thanking me for being vulnerable, and here I'm thinking I'm not being vulnerable at all. I don't want to talk. And, so it's how many of those things do you might even have going on where you think one thing and then the person that you're talking to is like, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing something totally different here. So, we can get so stuck in our heads and not wanting to bother anybody else. I'm really good at that one. I don't want to bother anybody else. So, with all of that, like what can all of this contribute to you? And, that can kind of be an interesting, it's time for our first break. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thanks for listening.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Are you looking to change anything in your life? To have an even greater appreciation of everything around you? Would you enjoy having a life of more joy and greater abundance? And explore what is possible for you? My name is Betsy McLoughlin, and I invite you to explore simple and pragmatic tools that I share on my radio show, Imperfect Brilliance. I know firsthand that you can change anything. We explore tools and questions with amazing guests, offering all kinds of conversations on living your best life. I invite you to listen in Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern to Imperfect Brilliance. Consider a coaching call with me and let's explore what you would like your life to be like. Visit my website at www.creatingyumminess.com and you're invited to call into Imperfect Brilliance with your questions Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I look forward to connecting.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Do you feel like your emotions are all over the place? That's normal during this abnormal time. There are a number of ways to cope. Maintain a healthy routine, get enough sleep, eat nutritious food, and exercise at least 30 minutes each day. Schedule some time to talk with a friend or family member. And remember, you can always take a few deep breaths to feel more centered.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
So welcome back, everybody. So this is Christine Ciona here, and I am with Betsy. And Betsy right now is with her mom. So her mom just woke up and needs some care and attention. And it's brilliant because being in the dying experience also means showing up when people are asking for some support and contributions. So Betsy is with her mom right now, and she'll be hopping back on in a moment. And before the break, we were just talking about, how to meander through this with ease, the dying experience. And I know for myself, one of the interesting things going on in my life right now is having my dad is going through dementia and noticing what that is like for him, and my mom being in the primary caregiver role for my dad. They still live in their own house, and there's a lot of health and care needs that are being taken care of by my mom. And I remember there was a time where my mom was actually in the hospital, and she had had a stroke and she was in the hospital. So then I was living in my parents' house taking care of my dad, and my whole body was exhausted. So if we just for a minute can tap into everything that's coming up for you guys when you think of the word caregiving and what caregiving means. Hi, Betsy.
Hi.
We're just chatting about caregiving and I'm just inviting people to tap into the energy of caregiving and what that means, and everything that caregiving brings up for you. And this time that I'm speaking of, my mom was in the hospital after having a stroke. My dad's at home needing to be taken care of. I'm now doing that. So, your routine changes.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. Just during the break, it was talking about, maintaining your health and wellness, exercise every day for 30 minutes. Eat well, take care of yourself, and have a healthy routine. And then what's in brackets is, until someone that you love is in the hospital, or until someone that you love needs you to show up, until your routine and your schedule goes out the window.
Turns upside down and goes through a washing machine, and you don't know what the heck is going on.
And for me, one of the things that's been helpful in this whole process, I remember this moment where I'm now staying at my parents' house and my body is exhausted. I am in so much pain. I feel like I'm under cement bricks in the ocean. My body is so sore. Mm-hmm. And two things for me was, one, listening to my body and not making it wrong, and trying to be open to hearing what is my body aware of. Because when my body's in pain, because it's uncomfortable, I think it's mine, and then I think it's wrong. And the greatest gift I had in that moment is I asked a question, which was, okay, body, who does this belong to? Body, is this pain even mine? And the wisdom that came from the depths of me was, this is your dad. That I was really aware of the energy of my dad. My dad, knowing that my mom is in the hospital, not totally understanding everything that's going on, doesn't have the language to even have the conversation to understand what's going on. And now I'm in the house and his world is turned upside down also. And what I can't be told verbally, energetically, I'm aware of. My body was so uncomfortable. And so knowing that my body actually can tell me things in the middle of the dying experience that I'm witnessing someone going through is a really great teacher for me of then how I can meander my way in this relationship using my body as this almost like a barometer for how my dad is being today. And then the other piece is knowing that my body is sensing this much discomfort, that putting the oxygen mask on myself, which you talked about just before you went on break, was me allowing myself to be cared for by other people. And when you're in the role of a caregiver, you make it your undying wish to be the sole soldier warrior. It's just ridiculous what we do. To be like, well, I'm the caregiver, so stand down. I'm the caregiver, stand down. And that does nothing but harm me from receiving contribution from others. So it was at that moment that then I called people who, could give me an access bar session every single night, no matter what the time of day was, get myself a massage every single day. At some point, I was contributing to my body because my body was contributing to my dad.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I know, like you said, when your whole world gets turned upside down and you're out of your normal routine, right? We've had a lot of that this past year with so many of us not being able to, do much outside of our homes, and then you add another component, and it's just, and you think, well, I gotta soldier on, and I gotta do this, and all of those things. And when you have that, like you said, that's not really allowing other people to contribute. And one of the beauties of this, what I'm seeing show up for me, is the more I'm willing to talk about it, and it doesn't have, it's just, you're not burdening other people if you talk about it. Now if I complained 24/7, it might be a different thing, but if I just am telling people, hey, this is going on in my life, if I might seem a little scattered or I might seem a little whatever, just know there's this extra thing going on, and I'm navigating everything as best as I can. And I was like, I hope she doesn't need me during the radio show. And of course, in the middle of it, she did. And I just sent Christine a message and said, hey, could you, I might not be back before the break is over. And I still have, I still could hear everything you were saying, but I was taking care of her. And it was, it was a beautiful example of, okay, here we go. And the willingness to just keep navigating and not making yourself wrong for anything you may or may not do, get done, think about, all of those pieces. And just, remember that this is a lot of extra things that you're not used to having to do in your normal life. And if you can remember to be very kind to yourself, and, all the ways Christine mentioned, and anything that works for you, call a friend, turn off the phone and watch a funny movie, or whatever it is that's going to help recharge your batteries. Your batteries have to stay recharged, just, because if you're not in a place where you're caring for you, that's also going to reflect on what you are being and providing to the person that you're caring for. And I can see that for myself for sure. There are some times when I just have no patience, and I'm like, okay, what's different here? She's not being anything different. And sometimes I just really, and I'm like, okay, so when I'm in that space, it's like, okay, what's different? Have you done anything for yourself? And every single time I ask myself that question, I'm like, oh, nope. So, okay, go outside for a walk. What can you do? Call a friend, whatever. So those are just, like, there's so many things that we can talk about. I'm like thinking, and just as we're kind of meandering around this conversation, the willingness to receive from others, receive help, receive contribution, receive whatever that is. Christine gave some beautiful examples how she was like, okay, I got to do this for me. And she was willing to reach out, and people were willing and happy to contribute.
And, Betsy, there was a piece in there, too, about me being seen as not being strong and confident, because for me, I have a point of view that I am strong and I'm confident, and I'm a leader, and I get things done. And when I was, hit by the energetic bus, and I remember my friend Darla, she came to the house every single day.
Oh, bless her heart.
Sometimes at 1 a.m, and my massage table was up in the spare room at my parents' house, and she was giving me sessions. And the first time she came, it was like, oh my God, she's going to see the insanity. Like, she's going to, like, it comes back to, are we willing to really be real and be seen and receive ourselves without it being wrong? And she's going to come to my house at 11 at night at my parents' home, and I had a bunch of worries, like my dad's going to come out in his underwear and his walker, and like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And we make up all these reasons and
yes, we do,
for why receiving help isn't good. And I like to be seen as strong and confident, and I don't like to be seen as being needy. And receiving contribution is, good Lord, like, if we could just get that in our bodies on an energetic level in everything we're doing, not just in the dying experience.
True story.
Like, what would it be like to actually allow people to contribute to me?
Right, and it doesn't have to be, a crisis, but that you can allow people to contribute to you all the time. And then what if that's actually such a gift to you as well as the person gifting you? Like, I can think of so many times when, somebody was either really sick or somebody had died, and you kind of don't know what to do for the family, the friends. And, when I know, like, just doing something, but don't look to them necessarily to tell you what to do, because they're like, whatever. But if you get a hit that, what? Take the dog for a walk, take the dog for a day, like, drop off food or whatever. When my mother-in-law was ill for quite a long time, we started the church started I think they call it a food train or a food something, where basically, different families signed up, and they were bringing food. They were bringing dinner every day. And so that was such a huge relief to have that taken off. And, of course, we had tons of food, and we ended up freezing stuff. And, at one point, my father-in-law was like, I don't want any more food. It's like, no, please let people do this. We can put it in the freezer. You've got lots of kids. You can send some home if there's too much, but don't refuse it. And it made my mother-in-law so happy because, my father-in-law wasn't a great cook. We weren't there every single day at that point, and it was just so, there's so many different things that we can do, whether we're directly involved as a caregiver or it's somebody we know going through this experience of somebody in the hospital, somebody sick or dying, or somebody giving birth, like all of the different things where people need some extra. And so what do you know? And what would you like to gift them? And then what if and I know then there's another piece where like, well, I don't want to bother them. Well, what if you, even if it's dropping off a meal, what if you just don't even ring the doorbell? you get in your car and you leave, and then you call or text and say, hey, I dropped off food outside. So if you don't want to bother them because you don't want, if there's that thing going on, or even now with COVID, okay, there's no contact at all, but I left you thing. Or there's even services. I had a friend going through breast cancer, and I found a service online that I just sent her a bunch of meals. And she, like she got to pick what she wanted. And she was like, that was one of the best gifts. Because I was like, I don't know what to do for her. And I was like, well, wait a minute, is that true? And I know, actually I do. And here, I think she would enjoy this. And she did. So how creative could you guys get with all of whomever you might be thinking about as we're having this conversation?
And, Betsy, what's popping for me is joy. And I'm actually smiling right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, when we talk about the dying experience and even the definition of caregiving, so I looked it up, and it's just so thrilling.
Oh, no. I'm almost afraid to ask.
Right. So every single definition of caregiving comes with being overwhelmed and exhausted. It's quite
oh, my goodness.
So caregiving is the activity or profession of regularly looking after a child or sick or elderly or disabled person that is overwhelming and exhausting.
Wow.
And I just think, let's flip that around on its head.
Exactly.
In this whole process, whether you're caregiving or you're on the dying journey or someone that is going through something, or you've had tons of losses over the last year and a half with COVID, whatever that is, joy does not go away in the face of death.
No, it doesn't.
Joy is still present. And there is something interesting that happens because when it's like the light is, you can't stop joy unless you stop choosing it, which is a state of being. And for me, I remember, when I was going through cancer treatment, you walk into the room and it's just this thick, heavy, energetic of death. And it doesn't mean there is no joy. It doesn't mean that there's no happiness or ease. And so when you're talking about, what can I contribute to them? I wonder what I could do to, reach out and offer a hand. I would invite you to ask, what is the joy that I can be? That would be the space that they are looking for. What is the joy that I know that I can invite and create and play with, engage them in, that maybe no one has done? Maybe I'm not a meatloaf casserole person, but I know something. I know something about being joy. I know something about this person. What is it that I can be today that will be the kindness and the joy that they and their bodies are asking for today? I wonder what that is. And see what shows up for you. I'll give you an example. So my dad having dementia, there's some days, you could come to the house and you wouldn't know. Like he could fake his way through a conversation with you. But he wouldn't know what he did that day or the day before that or the day before that or the day before that. And so there's been a time of seeing my dad kind of pull away from engaging in conversation. And he'll sit in conversation, but not necessarily start or actively participate and follow the thread of conversation.
Right.
And then when he does show up to conversation, it's usually 10 blocks away from what we're actually talking about.
Right, exactly, yes.
And so to expect someone to do something, if you're expecting someone to engage and participate in the way that they have and they no longer can, that's just going to create an interesting dynamic in this relationship. Mm-hmm. And then the other piece is can bring up disappointment, or this isn't the same person that I know, or they're not we can make their experience wrong and not see the joy in the moment. And so I'm at the house with visiting my mom and dad, and I bring out my video camera, and I'm actually recording a cooking show with my mom in her kitchen. And it's live, and we're doing a cooking show, doodle-doodle-doo. And my dad comes into the kitchen and now is kind of in the show. And so then we just began a commercial brought to you by da-da-da-da-da. And he's really great at singing. So then we started to sing, and then it just led into this whole other conversation. And he's now on camera, and he's singing songs, and he's talking about the food that he loves, and he's engaging with us. Yeah. So there's this place of joy, and there's this place of allowance of you changing tracks and allowing them to show you the magic in this moment that maybe you're not seeing because you're seeing what's not there. And just because they're not the same doesn't mean there isn't a gift right there with you at the table.
So beautifully said. So beautifully said. Wow, thank you for that. And it's time for our second break, you guys. Wow, what a conversation this has been. Please stay tuned for a little bit more of the dying experience. We'll be back in a couple.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hey, you guys. Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance. What a special conversation this has been for me, and I hope for you all as well, with my guest today, Christine Ciona. And I just wanted to add one thing to what you were talking about with joy. And I used to, well, and I still do, people will reach out to me, but it was more prevalent when I was not that far out of all of my cancer treatments, where people would say, you know, I have a friend who has cancer and I don't know what to do for them. And my response was this, pretty much what you were saying, like, have fun with them. Don't treat them any differently just because they have this thing going on, right? You're still you as a person. And the one thing I really was like, don't talk about their illness unless they bring it up. Just be there for them. And what if you watch some funny movies with them? What could you do to laugh with them? And I loved your example of, you know, you just like went with it and okay, Dad's in the show now, and it brought him joy and it brought you guys joy. And where can you find joy in everything that's going on? And if, you know, your loved one is imminent to the dying experience, like where can you find joy? What can you celebrate in every moment? And what can you be grateful for? And I've even had that conversation with my mother when, you know, she might be like, oh, I'm just so sad. I'm so depressed. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about what you are grateful for. And every time it just like turns her mood around. So, you know, with all of this, what is the gift in life and death and joy and illness and our friends and our family? And gosh, that's actually having me tear up a little bit with, you know, like what is the gift of life that we all, this is all part of our experience, and, you know, how can we embrace it even more and not run away from anything that might be uncomfortable, but actually if we didn't run away from it and we embraced it and we asked those questions of how can we even find more gratitude and the gift and the joy in this. Like, I wonder if we all chose that every day with whatever's going on in our lives, what that would contribute to ourselves and the planet.
Absolutely. There's a piece in there, Betsy, as you're speaking about being willing to be surprised in the possibility.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing, you know, with health and medication and healthcare providers and different treatment plans, like there's tons of professionals and healthcare providers. Like there's going to be a lot of people in your universe. There's a lot of people in your environment, and they all have their own experience with the dying experience. And everyone's going to have a different way that, you know, they think you should meander through the journey, and only you know what's going to work for you. And what would it be like to be willing to be surprised at how you can be surprised by, maybe it can be easy, you know, like, I know when if it wasn't a problem, like if it wasn't wrong, if I didn't make dementia wrong, what great surprises would be possible here? If I didn't make the caregiving system wrong, what surprises would be available to me? But we become really determined to, it's almost like we have our parents back, or we make that responsibility of being the caregiver the determining factor to then find, it's either I have an ally or I have an enemy in this, rather than what surprises await me and how much fun can I have moving through this in a way no one has ever seen before.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, and for me, I also ask, like, to navigate it all with ease and grace and, you know, and again, that kindness piece. And, you know, if you have a rough day, that's okay too. Like, it's like any other part of your life. You're going to have good days and rough days and fabulous days and meh days. And what if it's all okay? And I wonder, like, even what is the gift of this conversation? I'm truly grateful for it. And I did want to say a couple of things. Christine had mentioned earlier, just in case you guys don't know, she had mentioned access bars, and it is an energetic body process, in case you're wondering, well, what in the world is that? It is an energetic body process where basically your head just gets touched really lightly, and it releases just thoughts, feelings, emotions, and you go from this, like, if you're in a state, it just puts you to such a beautiful, peaceful, restful state. And so if you're curious at all, and there's a lot of other things out there that can also provide relief. This is just one of the things we know from doing it for quite a while, that it is such a gift for us. So it's you can check out more information on it at accessconsciousness.com and find a practitioner or a facilitator in your area, and check it out if you haven't. If you know what we're talking about, you're like, okay, when was the last time you had your bars run, is one of the things we ask, because every time it's just puts me back to the space of me, I think is probably the easiest way to say it. So I did want to mention that. And then also the other thing, well, there's a couple other things. I did want to invite you guys, this whole conversation kind of, as I shared with you all, really was created last week. And from the beautiful gift that Michelle and Christine are in my life, and where I look at it now, and if I had avoided talking to them because I wasn't in a good place, none of this, like even this conversation here today, would not have happened. And we also are creating a private weekly Zoom conversation where you can come on and have conversations about anything that's going on. There's like really basically nothing's off limits, and it's, going to be a private group that you're welcome to join. It's a monthly program and weekly calls, and there will be replays and I'm sure lots of amazing conversations. So if that is of any interest to you, then you can go to my website, www.creatingyumminess.com, and it is on the main page there. You just scroll down a little bit where you can see upcoming classes and the dying experience. And there's a button that you click that says Learn More. And our first call is actually tomorrow evening if you're listening to this live, or you can catch it, which is April 28th, 2021. And you can catch it, of course, you can get the replays as well. And I had honestly no intention of doing it. I wasn't really going to talk about it much. And, I know I've been pretty quiet the last few months on social media compared to how I usually am. And because I was like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to say. And it was really through conversations with Michelle and Christine. It was like, well, why don't you talk about what's going on? And then I had a lot of points of view about, well, I shouldn't really talk about it. I don't want to burden anybody, right? So it was just great. And I have no idea where we'll go or what we'll talk about it, but it was such a beautiful invitation for me to choose something different and to actually, how will this contribute to me? And it was all created fast, you guys, like speed of lightning fast. And I just kind of got out of the way and watched it all be created.
It was fast.
Yeah, and like, wow, this is me receiving what they would like to contribute to me, and it was gorgeous. So I am so grateful for that piece. And then I also did want to invite people, if they would like to have more conversations with you, Christine, how can they find you?
Yeah, so people can reach out. You can find me on my website, which is capacitiesunleashed.com, and I offer individual coaching sessions, and you can book a joy clarity call if you like, and we can chat and see where you're at and how you might want to be amping up the capacities in your life, for sure. So capacitiesunleashed.com, and you can find me on Facebook as well. Yeah, thank you.
Fun. I love it. And I love that. And, that's sometimes you just need your friends to push you a little bit. And, they did that for me, and I was willing to receive it and say, I look at that, and maybe 10 years ago, I might have gotten really mad and put my walls up and not wanted to. And I was like, no, actually, listen to what they're saying and receive. And it was just, such a gift. So as we, finish up this conversation today, I hope that there's been some nuggets in here for you of what this could contribute to really all aspects of your life. And, I would love to summarize just a couple things that I remember, and then Christine, pipe in as well, please. Number one, be kind to yourself. You don't have to do it all alone. Yes, you are you might be the main person, or you could be sharing the responsibilities with someone else, but there are other people that desire to contribute to you in however ways they can, and are you willing to receive from them? And, do something to you every day? And then what else, Christine? What else you got?
Yeah, well, the piece that's popping for me is, even the creation of this dying experience that's happened, it's because of life. Because of the life, the life that is where you are at. Everyone who's listening, your life where you are right now is inviting you into a choice to create even more of what you're looking for. And so rather than avoiding the moments that are showing up for you that can be overwhelmed, that can be heavy, or maybe a new landscape you've never traveled in, what if this is a choice? Like this is a moment I can move through that actually, if I said yes to it, could create a whole new experience for me. And therein is the joy.
Beautiful, beautiful. Christine, thank you so much for being on the show again. And, a special shout out to our wonderful producer, Chris. And thank you all for listening and being here with us. And until next week, thank you guys. Have a wonderful week. Thanks again, Christine.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Enjoy the day.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.